Welcome to Carleton's Math Corner. Today we're going to continue our study on parallel and perpendicular lines. At this time, please make sure that you have something to write with, a notebook, as well as a vocabulary packet. Our target today is I can write an equation in slope-intercept form for a line that is parallel to a given equation and that passes through a given point. First of all, let's refresh our memory about parallel lines. Remember, parallel lines have equal slopes and they will never intersect. And let's refresh our memory on slope-intercept form because we will be using that today. Remember, it's y equals mx plus b. M is our slope, it's our rise over run, and our b is our y-intercept. So let's look at some equations as well as points, and let's figure out an equation that's parallel to each one of these. Starting off with number 1. So we have y equals 8x plus 4, and here's the point that this line passes through. And so, or this is the point that we have to create an equation that passes through. Let me rephrase that. And so what our job is to find a parallel line to this equation. Well, if we know that parallel lines have equal slopes, then we know that our new equation will have the same slope. So that means it will have 8 as its slope. The only thing we don't know is the y-intercept. But the cool thing is we know the point that it passes through. So we can use our prior knowledge about slopes, and we can actually plug in the -5 and plug in the 3. Now remember, these are coordinates, so this -5 represents x and this 3 represents y. And so we can plug it into our current equation. 3 equals, and then 8 times -5, and then we can solve for b. So we would get 3 equals -40 plus b. And remember to do the inverse of this. So if I do the inverse, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, if I do the inverse, that would be subtracting a -40. But remember, when you subtract a negative, it's that double shot, so it turns into a positive. So really we're adding 40, and we are going to add 40 on both sides. So we are really taking 3 plus 40 in order to solve this, and this -40 plus 40, this would just disappear. So I can actually draw a line through it and it's gone. And so our answer then is b is equal to 3 plus 40 is 43. Now that's our y-intercept. So now we have our slope and we have our y-intercept. So actually we have our answer. Our answer is y equals 8x plus 43. Nice job. Now if we look at the next one, here's the equation that's given to us. Here's the point that our parallel line will run through. And so we're going to start off, remember, slopes are equal. And so I'm going to start off with 2x plus b. And then we're going to plug in the 10 and the 6. Remember, 6 represents the y. The 10 represents the b, or not the b, the x. And then we're going to solve for b. So we have 6 equals 20 plus b. And if we do the inverse, we would be subtracting 20 on both sides, right? And if I subtract 20, now we get b is equal to -14. And so if I have -14 for my y-intercept, now my equation is actually solved for me. So my answer or my equation that's parallel to this would be y equals 2x minus 14. Now what if we have some fractions in there? Actually, we still do the same steps. Our parallel line will have the same slope, and we're still going to need to plug in our point. And so our -3, again, will go for y. And then we have 1/3 times a -18. Now, technically, remember, -18 is -18 over 1. So we are really taking 1/3 times -18 over 1, which would just be -18 over 3, and that is the same as -6. So we're going to change this to -6, and some of you actually already knew that if you take 1/3 of 18, you get 6, because if I take 18 divided by 3, then I get 6, and then I just need to add that negative on. And now when I solve this, we have a plus -6. So remember, we're going to do the inverse, which would be subtract -6, same as a double shot, so we're adding 6. So if I add 6 on both sides, then b is 3. So b equals 3. And so my equation is y equals 1/3 x plus 3. Now what if we have an equation that's not in slope-intercept form? Like if you look at number 4, and I'm going to move this up so you can see the rest, this is, our equation is 10x plus y equals 3. Well, this is not slope-intercept form, but we can actually make it into slope-intercept form. How do we move the 10x over again? Yeah, subtract 10x so that it moves it over to the other side. So if I subtract 10x on this side, and I subtract 10x on this side, now my y is all by itself, and all I have left is 3 minus 10x. But let's move those around because I want it to look like slope-intercept form. So I'm going to move those around. And so I have -10x plus 3. So this is the equation I'm starting with. So now if I want to create one that's parallel to this, I'm going to keep the slope the same, and I'm going to do the same steps that I have been doing. I'm going to need to plug in this -2 and 30. And so 30 is going to go in for y, -2 will go in for x, and then let's solve. So we have 30 equals 20 plus b. And I don't think I need to go through the steps on this one. I know you know the answer on this one. 20 plus what is 30? B is 10. Nice job. So our final answer is y equals -10x plus 10. Excellent job. So what I would like for you to do, I want you to try this out now. So here are your ticket problems, and work through them and make sure to submit them on Schoology. And thank you so much for meeting with me today, and I look forward to meeting with you again. Have a great day.